Every once in a while, we give you updates on how the international vaccination effort is going, and obviously not nearly as well as it is in countries like the US and the UK, Israel, and others. Recently, the World Health Organization has estimated that of the more than 700 million coronavirus vaccine doses that have been administered across the globe so far, just 0.2% have gone to people in low-income countries. Inequity that experts warn will persist unless rich countries end their obstruction of an international effort to suspend vaccine patents. Now, this is a disaster for a lot of reasons. And I think that if you're watching this show, probably just morally, it probably enrages you. But pragmatically, there are some issues here as well that we're gonna get into. But first, the Director General of the WHO says that there remains a shocking imbalance in the global distribution of vaccines as pharmaceutical companies cling to their monopoly control over technology that was developed with large infusions of public money. I mean, sure, people are dying around the globe, but the important thing is they make profits. On average, he says, in high-income countries, almost 1 in 4 people have received a vaccine. In low-income countries, it's 1 in more than 500. Let me repeat that, 1 in 4 versus 1 in 500. I mean, we know that there is inequality in virtually every area of life in the economy and society. This is about as bad as I've ever seen the gap between 2 different countries. As many as 60 countries, including some of the world's poorest, might be stalled at the first shots because nearly all deliveries through the global program intended to help them are blocked until as late as June. So close to 2 more months before the deliveries start. And then eventually they get them, and then eventually they can distribute them and start administering them months from now. And how many deaths from now internationally, Francesca? How many more people will get sick and maimed and die because we gotta get it first in a country that has done everything it can to convince people, oh, it's kind of suspicious, maybe you shouldn't get it anyway.
American exceptionalism right there. If ever your right-wing family members or yourself, you want to complain, you think this country sucks, there you go. We can do literally everything wrong and still be first in line for the vaccine. Yay. And I want everyone to remember that, countries in the global south, it's not just like poor countries that are like super, where people live in huts and like yes, there are those countries which actually have relatively low amounts of COVID, but there are sort of middle income global south countries, whether even Brazil, whether Argentina, whether in India, these are countries that have the capacity, were they to get access to the IP, to these to Johnson & Johnson, to Pfizer, were they able to produce the vaccine on their own? Absolutely can. They have biochemists, they have laboratories, they can do this stuff. And the fact is that big pharma will not allow that in the United States, and the Biden administration is absolutely going along with that, which is not okay for so many reasons. And of course, we have a crisis at the border, even though the Biden administration doesn't want to call it that. If there are going to be, tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors, that's not a good thing. How do you think that trying to escape not just climate change, not just gang violence, but a pandemic will affect migration patterns?
Totally.
I'm going to say it's going to increase them by quite a lot. So I just think it is important to understand going forward that we can't double down on big pharma, even though they've saved our asses here. But this is not okay. It's time to actually leverage our power, the money that was given to them, right? The federal funds used to help their R&D. Because the last thing I'll say, John, is the reason we have R&D, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but is because Chinese scientists actually released what they understood to be the DNA sequence for COVID, for COVID-19, right? Here you go, this is what we have. And Pfizer and Moderna and J&J were then able to use that to develop their vaccines, I believe. I don't know if the J&J was the exact same. But so they were open about, here, you don't have to sequence this, we have the sequence, go forth, right? And now we know that like the China vaccine, there's a vaccine developed in China. That's not as effective. They might need more doses than previously thought. The Sputnik vaccine in Russia also not doing so well. AstraZeneca is better, but that's the one that's being administered in Europe. So what I'm saying is that like We just took that IP, we developed, and we just developed the vaccine, and meaning Pfizer and J&J and Moderna, and just not helping the rest of the world.
Yeah, and it might be easy to think, some people, because everybody, when it comes to like public health, cares most about people like them, might think, okay, but us first, and then, but is it, and then, in theory, once we've capped out in a couple months where the people who haven't gotten it don't want to get it, will the factories continue pumping it out at the same rate to start shipping it internationally? Or will they transition to something else?
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, I want to jump to the last graphic for the return to the pragmatic point that I want to make. This is from Dean Baker of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Says, what are we going to do if a new and more deadly vaccine-resistant strain develops in Zambia or Burma? I don't want to hear another chorus of who could have known from our intellectuals who missed another huge one. Let's get it right this time, even if it means having to do things a little differently. Our leaders are not forced to take a vow of incompetence. And remember, it's not like the only way you can do any good is to vaccinate every one of these countries exactly as much as we're vaccinating ourselves. Again, remember, the deaths and severe hospitalizations are disproportionately clustered among the elderly. So the first batch, probably through corruption, goes to the leaders and the rich or whatever. But then the second batch goes to the elderly. And you can do the most good with a relatively small number of international doses. That's what we need, but if we're gonna get it, it's not gonna be through the goodwill of the companies. That is never going to happen. It is going to be because Biden makes it happen. And so far, he is not doing that.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.